you're the sort of watercolour artist who never makes mistakes, then you should just move along. Go and watch something else because you don't need to hear this. However, if you are the sort of person like the rest of us who makes mistakes regularly, needs to put them right in watercolour and finds it a bit frustrating because it's hard to correct them, then stick around because I'm going to tell you about Magic Eraser and how to use it and why it's a bit of a game changer. So hello, my name's Liz Chatterton. I'm a full-time watercolour artist based in Berkshire, and every week I share tips, tricks and techniques that I wish someone had told me when I started painting. So let's imagine we've been painting and we've realised we've made a mistake. Now, watercolour has a real reputation for being hard to fix. So say, we painted a blue sky and we thought, I wish I put a cloud in. What we're usually told to do is to wet the surface and let it sink in. And I'll do that on both sides in some sort of cloudy shape. And then we can lift off the loosened pigment. French ultramarine is not a staining pigment, whereas this phthalo turquoise I've put here is. So this really sinks into the paper and is really hard to move. So the next option we have is short flat brush, and we can scrub. I want my white cloud on my blue sky, clean water, and I start to lift and scrub the area, and then I dab away with my kitchen towel. Oh, well, that's more successful. That's definitely sort of nice and cloud-like, isn't it? I've got my short flat brush and I can tickle the surface, scrub away and see whether I can get my cloud. It's better than just lifting out, but it's still not brilliant. And this is where Magic Eraser comes into its own, and it's a melamine foam, so that when it's dampened it acts almost like a very fine sandpaper. You can just rip it to the size you want, and I would recommend getting it not from the art shop but to get it from the cleaning place, because basically as soon as you put art into anything it quadruples the price. Dampen it in clean water and then wring it out so that it is damp, not wet. It should not be dripping. And then pull away the pigment and you can see how much came off. When your sponge gets dirty, just rinse it and then squeeze it out again. See how it's on this phthalo turquoise. I'm definitely getting a lot more off than with the little scrubby brush, but it's still not brilliant. I mean, it's definitely still got a turquoise tint to it. If you've used something like a phthalo or Alizarin crimson, anything like that, there will always be a tint left in the paper and there is nothing you can do about it. But you can get more off, and maybe you can get enough of it to salvage the problem. However, you might not want random shapes like a distant cloud. You might want a sharp line. Masking tape is useful here. Say we wanted a shaft of sunlight to be coming out from behind our cloud. That would be nice. Take off a piece of masking tape, and if it's super sticky, another tip is just take off some of the stickiness on your clothing so that it doesn't rip your paper. Also make sure your paper is totally dry before you do this. So I may run into problems because obviously my paper's a little bit damp. Take off the stickiness and then you can position. So my ray of light from the sun behind the cloud might be like that. Now we know it should come off nice and easily because that's my lifting pigment. Now I can carefully lift. Oh, look, I did rip my paper there because it was damp. But I've got that lovely ray of light. How that works over here. So again, putting down my masking tape, rinsing off my sponge, cleaning it out, and then dabbing away what I've loosened. Let's go very careful with that. You can cut yourself a little stencil if you want to. So again, this is my blue sea perhaps, and I thought, oh, if only I'd left a little white sail in the distance. So imagine that triangle is my little sailing boat. You can just hold this down. You've cut your stencil in a piece of watercolour paper with a sharp knife. Hold it down. Dab, dab, dab. Make sure you lift stuff off. Oh, fantastic. Now I've got my white distant sail. And again over here. Yeah, I've got my white distant sail. What you might be noticing is that I'm trying to only do 3-4 times passing on the paper, because after a while it starts to lift the fibres of the paper and starts to damage them, because this is like a very fine sandpaper. What you can do is make sure your spoon is clean, and you can actually use the back of a spoon to sort of burnish your paper and re-flatten the fibres. So that will help if you have got some damage. You will find with the sponge that after a while you can't rinse the colour out. It becomes a bit compacted and grey, at which point you chuck it away, get a new bit. The final thing to look at is if, say, you want a dark shape and on a light background, you can always cut a piece of masking tape to whatever shape you want. So say I want it to be vaguely round. This is a freehand circle. You could then stick it down and lift round it. Dab off. And then carefully peel away your masking tape. So that would be another way of rectifying what's going on. If you haven't used too strong colours, they're not really staining. You only want to lighten things a bit or put in just a little bit of detail, then Magic Eraser is your friend, and it's really worth investing in a lump of this stuff. If you found that tip useful, please hit the subscribe button, and I'll do another one next week.